In 6.14, we are talking about supply and price. Demand refers to how much quantity of a product or a service is desired by a buyers. The quantity demanded is the amount of a product people are willing to buy at a certain price. The relationship between a price and quantity demand is known as a demand relationship supply. Supply represents how much the market can offer. When economists talk about the supply, they mean the amount of some good or service a producer is willing to supply at each price. Price is what the producers receive for selling one unit of a good or service. An increase in price almost always leads to an increase in the quantity supplied of that good or service, while a decrease in price will decrease the quantity supplied. In equilibrium, when supply and demand are equal, the economy is said to be at equilibrium. With an upward sloping supply curve and a downward sloping demand curve, it is easy to visualize that at some points the two will intersect. At these points, the market price is sufficient to induce suppliers to bring to market that some quantity of goods that consumers will be willing to pay for at that price. Supply and demands are balanced or in equilibrium. The precise price and quantity where this occurs depend the shapes and positions of the respective supply and demand curve, each of which can be influenced by a number of factors. This equilibrium is a situation where internal and or external forces prevent market equilibrium from being reached or cause the market to fall out of balance. This can be a short-term byproduct of a change in a variable factors or a result of a long-term structural imbalances. This equilibrium is when an external forces cause a disruption in a market supply and demand equilibrium. In response, the market enters a state during which supply and demand are mismatched. This equilibrium is caused due to several reasons, from government intervention to a labor market inefficiencies and unilateral actions by a supplier or distributor. This equilibrium is generally resolved by the market entering into a new state of equilibrium. For instance, people are incentivized to start producing more overpriced goods, increasing the supply to meet demands and lowering the price back to its equilibrium. Examples can be include short-term scenarios like flash crashes to long-term events like recessions and depressions. Excess supplies. Excess supply in economy and excess supply economic surplus market. Surplus are briefly supply in a situations in which the quantity of a good or service supplied is more than the quantity demands, and the price is above the equilibrium level determined by supply and demand. That is, the quantity of the products that producers wish to sell exceeds the quantity that potential buyers are willing to buy at the prevailing price. It is opposite of an economic shortage, like excess demands. In 6.14.4, when at the current price levels, the quantity demand is more than quantity supplied. A situation of excess demand is said to arise in the market. Excess demand occurs at a price less than the equilibrium price. Since the prices will be decreased, it will act as a bait for buyers to flock in markets, which would lead to competition among these buyers. This competition would lead to an increase in prices. As the prices increase, the law of demand will operate to decrease the demand and the buyers will start vanishing conversely. Conversely, this increase in prices would lure the suppliers to increase supply, which hopes to earn greater profits.